Church History Hidden and Distorted. Episode 3. Meet Joseph Smith, Jr. Welcome to the Hidden and Distorted History of the Church series, where we will be looking at the historical aspects of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, also known as the Mormons. In this series, I will try and inform those unaware of the true facts of Mormon history. Last week, we took a quick look at the siblings of Joseph Smith, Jr. and got a better look at the family dynamics. I only scratched the surface of each sibling of interest and skipped past Joseph Smith Jr. himself. This week, I will take a look at the younger Joseph Smith, so we can see what led up to the claimed first vision. Part 1. Before the claimed first vision. Joseph Smith Jr. was born in Sharon, Vermont in 1805, but they did not stay there long due to his father's business failures we saw in Episode 1. The Smith family moved to Tunbridge, Vermont in the winter of 1807 to 08, and then unto Royalton, Vermont. By 1811, the Smith family moved to West Lebanon, New Hampshire. In 1813, typhoid fever hit the region, and the Smith family got it. Joseph, alongside his older sister Sophronia, were the worst infected. Joseph was so bad that he needed surgery, and lucked out with a new experimental surgery being tested. Instead of amputation, the doctor used a scraping technique where he removed infected parts of the bone and muscle flesh. This surgery saved Joseph his leg, but he retained a limp from it his whole life. The doctor who performed that operation was named Dr. Nathan Smith. During this time of recovering from surgery, young Joseph befriended a boy 8 years younger than he was. The Smiths' next-door neighbors were the Rockwells, whom had a son named Orrin Porter, but went by Porter, whom would form a lasting friendship with Joseph until Joseph's death in 1844. Porter was also known as the Destroying Angel of Mormondom, and was accused of attempting the assassination of Governor Lilburn Boggs, which we will touch on later, as it may have been Smith who ordered the hit on Boggs' life. Part 2. Treasure Digger. Joseph's beliefs in 1820 were based on his father's, and by 1823, when he claimed his Moroni visitation, he was actively treasure digging with Joseph Smith Sr. Consequently, long before the idea of a golden Bible entered their minds, in their excursions for money digging, which I believe usually occurred in the night, that they might conceal from others the knowledge of the place where they struck their treasures, Joe used to be usually their guide, putting into a hat a peculiar stone he had through which he looked to decide where they should begin to dig. Martin Harris. Martin Harris tells us that Joseph had been out digging for treasures. Recall that the autumnal equinox was at this time, and again when the belief that spirits revealed treasures to those with occult knowledge. It is taught that Smith was very curious over religion, having attended several sermons from different ministers. Joseph was growing up around what was known as the Burnt-Over District, a motion of religious revivals and movements in New York State, Connecticut, Ohio, and northern Pennsylvania. Basically, religion fascinated him. What we were not taught as members, which I can personally attest to, and many members do not even know, was that the common thought of the time concerning the Native Americans were that they are one of the lost tribes of Israel of the Old Testament. This is the core foundation of the Book of Mormon's claim, and this was such a strong belief back then that in 1823 there was even a very popular book written concerning it. Ethan Smith, no relation to Joseph Smith, attended Dartmouth College in 1790. A quick note to bring up, Ethan Smith attended Dartmouth College while Smith Jr.'s uncle taught there. Recall John Smith was a pastor and created the religious department. Ethan Smith was also a Congregational church minister, the same faith Lucy Mack Smith was before Alvin's death. A Protestant branch off, Ethan Smith wrote a fictional book called Views of the Hebrews, in which he claims that the South and Native Americans were descendants of ancient Israelis, families who came to the Americas founding great civilizations. I won't go into the View of the Hebrews here, but I will do an episode on it shortly down the road. In 1822, Abner Cole, editor of the Reflector newspaper, hired Joseph Smith Sr. and Jr. to locate a treasure at the Hill Cumorah. The hill had no official name before the LDS naming of it, and of course they discovered no treasures located there, so why do I even mention it? First, Cole was critical of the Smiths and trying to prove a point. They were frauds. Second, The Smiths were already making claims of being seers and water witches, those able to locate water underground so wells could be dug. We will touch on that more soon. In 1822, Willard Chase, brother to famed seer Sally Chase, hired Alvin and Joseph Jr. to assist in discovering water on his property so he could dig a well. While Chase was digging, the Smiths never dug on these events. Chase discovered a curious stone and called Joseph down the hole. Smith popped the stone in his hat, and it is said he was able to see through it. Note this was his second seer stone. Smith having taken it home, the next day Joseph asked Willard if he may keep it. Willard replied that he could not, but he may borrow it. Smith never did return the stone, and that stone is the very same one he used to locate and translate the alleged golden plates. Historians D. Michael Quinn and Richard L. Bushman, both in their books Early Mormonism and the Magic Worldview and Rough Stone Rolling, recount events where an animal would be missing and the farmer would approach Smith where to locate it. Smith would tell them where to look, and they would find the animal. Both Quinn and Bushman also agree that there were statements made that Smith, one of his brothers, or both would steal the animals in question and stage the missing animal so people would come to them. Recall, Joseph and Alvin were both known as seers and water witches. In events where treasures were being sought, Alvin and Joseph would claim that a spirit was relocating the treasure, and the diggers would again need to start redigging in new spots. I bring this up because we will see this again in South Bainbridge when Smith is on trial for fraud in 1826. We know that the Smith boys continued to practice the belief of water witching, and we know they had continued treasure seeking as Smith Sr. and Smith Jr. were approached by someone we will meet in a future episode in 1825. Before that, though, let's take a little look at some of the treasure digging taking place in the time frame before 1826. New York Herald founder James Gordon Bennett Sr. had traveled to Palmyra in 1831 and recounted, on the sides and in the slopes of several of these hills, excavations are still to be seen. In E.D. Howe's Mormonism Unveiled, we have a recorded testimony from the Palmyra, Manchester residents concerning the Smith digs. Large excavations may be seen in the earth, not far from there, the Smiths' residence, where they used to spend their time digging for hidden treasure. Palmyra resident Pomeroy Tucker recorded, numerous traces of the excavations left by Smith are yet remaining as evidences of his impostures and the folly of his dupes, though most of them have become obliterated by the clearing off and tilling of the lands where they were made. The pit-hole memorials of his treasure explorations were numerous in the surrounding fields and woodlands, attracting the inspection of the curious and the wonder of the superstitious. It has been stated that at least 11 sites have been identified to Joseph. Pomeroy Tucker also recounted that the inauguration of Joseph Jr.'s treasure seeing and digging took place in the spring of 1820 on a then forest hill, a short distance from his father's house. Smith's neighbor, William Stafford, had stated Joseph Jr. had seen in his stone 2 or 3 kegs of silver, located not many rods from his Smith's house. Peter Ingersoll went on record that in 1822 Smith Sr. related to him that he and Alvin Smith used a hat along with a seer stone, as well as a divining rod to locate treasure, then proceeded to show him with a hat and seer stone. Smith Sr. went on to state, "If you only knew the value there is back of my house," and pointed to a place near. "There," exclaimed he, "is one chest of gold and another of silver." Sometime between 1822 and 1825, Joseph Sr. and an unnamed son approached William Stafford. Based on Stafford's testimony, E.D. Howe related, "Joseph Jr. has located some very remarkable and valuable treasures and requested the use of one of his black sheep for a blood sacrifice." Joseph Jr. would ask for a pigeon to sacrifice in the Spanish treasure dig as well, as blood magic was a part of their occult belief. In the time of their digging for money and not finding it attainable, Joe Smith told them there was a charm on the pots of money, and if some animal was killed and the blood sprinkled around the place, then they could get it. So they killed a dog and tried this method of obtaining the precious metal, but again, money was scarce in those diggings. Still, they dug and dug, but never came to the precious treasure. Alas! How vivid was the expectation when the blood of poor Trey was used to take off the charm, and after all to find their mistake. Emily Coburn in Emily M. Austin, Mormonism, or Life Among the Mormons, 1882, p. 32-33. Heel Lewis affirmed that Smith translated the Book of Mormon by means of the same enchanting spirit that directed Smith to make dog sacrifices. Dr. Quinn wrote, a cousin of Smith's wife Emma reported that Smith translated the Book of Mormon by means of the same peepstone and under the same inspiration that directed his enchantments and dog sacrifices. It was all by the same spirit. H. Lewis 1879, Quinn 1987 edition, p. 44. Justice Joel King Noble, who tried Smith in an 1830 trial in Colesville, NY, related in a letter that when Joe Smith and others were digging for a chest of money, they acquired a black dog and offered it as a sacrifice, blood mummer. Sprinkled prayer made at the time, no money obtained, the above sworn to on trial. Letter of Justice Noble, dated March 8, 1842, photographically reproduced in Walters, Joseph Smith's Bainbridge, NY, Court Trials, p. 134. I could do a lot more for this topic, but I do not want it to run too long. If you would like to know more, let me know in the comments section. In summary, we have tons of evidence against Alvin, Joseph Smith Sr. and Jr. concerning treasure digging and animal sacrifice. In the next episode, I will be covering the claimed first vision and the 4 different accounts we can confirm. I hope you picked up something new on Joseph Smith Jr. Please watch for future videos, and thank you so kindly for watching. This is the Ex-Mormon Informant signing off for the day.